Hi everyone, welcome to today's edition of Migrating Enterprise Database. For today, we are exploring creating Cloud SQL database. Before we dive in, let me just give a quick introduction of what Cloud SQL means. GCP provides a couple of managed database as a service products that can simplify and automate the creation and administration of your relational database. Cloud SQL is one of Google's cloud offering for a managed database product. Cloud SQL database are scalable, up to 96 cores and about 30 terabytes of disk space. What are some of the advantages of using Cloud SQL? Automated backups and maintenance, high availability. It also has a simple setup. You can configure a Cloud SQL database instance from your console or your command line. It is also very scalable and it is secure by default in the sense that the firewalls configured on your instance allow access only from the project where the database is created. That's your GCP account for your project. So to add clients from other networks, you have to use a CIDR service to add clients or third-party clients to connect to your database from outside your project. So Cloud SQL can scale vertically to increase capacity. It can scale up to 96 virtual CPUs and up to 64 gigabytes of RAM. And it also provides up to 30 terabytes of storage. So under scheduling backups as needed, it also helps to schedule backup as needed. And with Cloud SQL, you can do a point-in-time recovery. Another offering that Google Clouds provide as a managed database service is Cloud Spanner. Cloud Spanner is a global, massively scalable relational database. It is completely managed. It also has a simple setup with the command line or the console, and it is horizontally scalable. And you can deploy Cloud SQL across different regions. So if you just want a database instance for just a particular region, you can use Cloud SQL. But if you want a database that can scale horizontally across different regions or across different continents, go for Cloud Spanner. So to create a Cloud Spanner database, you have to name your instance, you have to also choose a location, and you have to select the amount of nodes you want for that particular Cloud Spanner instance. So deployment can be regional or multi-regional. So regional in the sense that all nodes and data are in a single region. And this gives you a 99.99% availability in SLA. But if you are using a multi-regional database for Cloud Spanner, then it replicates nodes and data in more than one region. And with that, you can expect 99.999%, which is 5 nines availability in SLA. Spanner scales by adding nodes, and when you add a node, for one node, it is approximately equals to 2 terabytes of storage. And one of the best practice when using Cloud Spanner is to make sure that you keep your CPU usage below 65%. A link above whereby you can see how Cloud Spanner works and what you can do with Cloud Spanner. But for today, we are majorly exploring creating Cloud SQL database. Let's get started. As usual, the first thing is to start our lab. Our lab is starting. Then you open in an incognito window. Copy my password. Paste my password here. So this is my home page for my Google Cloud Console. So the next thing I want to do is set up an requirement. I've done that. So for task 1, we have to create a Cloud SQL PostgreSQL database. And to create a PostgreSQL database, follow below. So the first thing is to go to the Cloud SQL. So you see that from more products. When you click on more products here, and you go down, under databases, you have our Cloud Spanner here. You have our Cloud SQL. So when you click on Cloud SQL, then you create an instance. So since we are creating a Postgres SQL instance, so you can choose to create a MySQL, Postgres, or SQL server, depending on what you want. But I'm using a Postgres for this lab. And we are going to name our Postgres instance Postgres SQL -db. So I put that here. Then I want to generate a password, or you can choose a password. You can decide to generate a password and maybe cancel it. So when you generate the password, this is something. Then I use a password named data. Then after that, I'm supposed to leave this in the default menu as specified by this lab. So you can just leave this as their default. Don't need to do any other adjustment to this. Then after that, I create my instance, and you can see that the instance is being created. So it may take like 4 minutes for our Postgres SQL database instance to get created, but I'm going to fast forward it and see you at the end. My Postgres SQL database has been created, and it took about 6 minutes to get created. Cool. So let's go to the next step. Before we go to the next step, let's confirm if we've completed the task 1. I'm going to click on check my progress, and let's see. And you can see it is completed. So let's also view our when I click on all instances. So here we are. You can see our Postgres instance has been created. So clicking in on it, it's bringing us back to this home page. So the next thing I want to do is you have to connect to the database using Cloud SDK. And to connect to the database using Cloud SDK, we are going from the Cloud Shell. So to enter into our database, you can just see from here you have the open Cloud Shell, and automatically it takes us to the Cloud Shell. So here we are on the Cloud Shell. So Cloud SQL connects to the Postgres SQL database, and this, so you click enter. So I'll authorize this because I really want to connect, and it will whitelist my IP address, so that may take some time. See you at the end. So now I have to enter my password I created. Click enter, and you can see that now I am on my Postgres database. So I can do anything I want to do on my database from here. So the first thing I want to do is I want to show the samples database that we have on that comes with this Postgres database. So here are some sample database: the Cloud SQL admin, the Postgres, the template 0, and the template 1. So these are just names of databases that are already on our database instance. So to create a new database, I'll just use the command create database, then the name of the database, in this case petdb. So when you click enter, then your database get created. So after a database has been created, let's confirm if it has been created by listing the database again with /l, small letter. And now you can see that we have petdb in addition. So before we had 4, but now when I created the new one, now we had 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Cool. So the next thing I want to do is I want to connect to the database I created. So to connect to the database I created, I use this command /c, then petdb. That's the name of the database that I'm using. It will also have for my password. I'm just going to put the password there. So I am in my petdb. So the next thing I want to do is I will create a new table in my database. So to create a new table, use the command create table. So the name of this table is pets, and the ID is an integer, and I'm also using it as a primary key. I'm also setting it to not null, so you have to specify a value for your ID. Then we have a name, and we are using a text, and we also have the breed. This name is a column name, this breed is also a column name, and they are both text. So use that, click on enter, and we've created our table. So then when we create a table, the next thing we want to do is input values into our table. Now that we just have a table, let's see if there's even anything there. So to check that, you do select star, just like the normal SQL, from the name of our table, which in this case is pets. So you can see this is just the column name, the ID, the name, and the breed. We don't have any data in at the moment. So let's add some records. I'm going to add some records from here, and I can even add multiple records. Let me just add multiple records by editing the command. This will be 2. Then since this, just going to use comment, then create the next value. Here I'm going to use subscribe. Then after that I have to close my brackets. Then I just take a look at it to see that I'm not doing any mistake. Then enter. So you can see I've inserted 2 rows in my database. So now let's show what is there again by running the select star from pets. So from select star from pets, and now you can see that we have a name, and we have entries in our database now, which is good. So the next thing we want to do is, if we want to disconnect from our database, so you can disconnect using the Ctrl+C as specified here. So now we are back on our Cloud shell, and we've left our database. So this is just us creating an SQL database and also connecting to it from Cloud shell. So let's see if we've completed this task. Task complete. Cool. So for task 3, we have to create a Cloud SQL MySQL database using the command line interface. So the one we created before was a Cloud SQL, but it was a Postgres database. But now we are creating a MySQL database, and we are using the command line. So the first thing is the command to create our database. So Cloud SQL instance creates. This is us specifying the name of the database. In this case is MySQL DB. And this is the tier of our database, and these are the machine type. This is the zone. So when you use this, from here, when you click on enter, it's that it creates our Cloud SQL instance for the MySQL, and it's using the latest version, which is MySQL 8.0 as at this moment. It may also take a while for this to get created. I'll see at the end. So here we can see our Cloud SQL instance has been created, and we have to take note of this primary address. So since I just need it for the timeline of this lab, and I'll just save it somewhere here in a new browser. So you can always check for your primary IP address from this all instance page. When you click there, just going to show you, and you can see this public IP address. So it's the same thing as what is here. This is our primary address, so which is cool. The next thing I want to do is I want to set a command to set the password for the root account, and you can see this Cloud SQL user sets password roots for the host, and the instance is this MySQL DB, and the password, this is where I'm going to input my password. So I'm just going to copy this and then change this one to my password. I'm going to name my password data just like the other one I used. Then click on enter, and you can see that it's updating the SQL user, and it has done that. So the next thing I want to do, is to enter the following command to connect to our Cloud SQL database using the CLI. So then I've created my database using the CLI. Then I want to connect into it from the CLI. So with this command, Qcloud SQL connect, this is the name of our DB, and I'm connecting as the user and the root user, so which is fine. Then enter. It's connecting. So we have to enter our password and see enter my password. And after that, you can see I am on my MySQL database instance. So to view what's here, you use show database as the command for MySQL. So the command prompt for MySQL and PostgreSQL is a little bit different depending on what you are doing. It should be show databases, sorry. So you can see the databases that are here. So the pre-configured database that are here, they are the information schema, the MySQL, the performance schema, and the sys. So to create, if I want to create a new database, then I would say create database, and I'll use the name of my database here. I'm just going to use engineer Cozy, then add this command to the end. Put it in the wrong way, so I'm just going to say create database and engineer Cozy. So please, when you are typing, make sure that you are typing correctly. So I omitted a here. Now I've made sure I input that. So this is create database, and that's created the database engineer Cozy. So when you create a database, let's see if we've actually created our database by showing the available databases that are here. So with the command show databases, and you can see we have the engineer Cozy, information schema, MySQL, performance schema, and the sys. After creating a database, then you have to go into that particular database. So to go into that database, you have to use, and you say use, then specify the database name. In this case, it is engineer Cozy. And you can see that now it's showing that we've changed to our database. So now we are already in engineer Cozy database. So the next thing I want to do is we may decide to create a table. So to create a table, let's just go and copy the code from this Postgres SQL we have here. When we're creating a table here, we said create table, the name of the table, and we also specified the column names. So I'm just going to grab. So with this command, I'm naming this table pets just like the other one, and these are the column names that I'm using here. So when you click on enter, so if you want to see this, you can, just like the other time, you can say select. Start from pets. It's not bringing anything because it's case sensitive and there's nothing to show for it. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to add some records to our Cloud SQL database. So to add some records with the insert this, just like what we did the other time, and this is our table name. So you can decide to add more values, but here I'm just going to leave it like this. Then you click on enter, so you can see. So now we can now select from our database, which is select star from pets, and now you can see that we have a table shown here. So with MySQL database, you cannot show an empty table. It's going to show an empty set. But when with Postgres, we could do that. And you can see that when we input a value, then it gets to show here. So which is cool. So the next thing we want to do is probably exit from our database. We've shown that we've created it from our Cloud Shell. So let's exit from our database. So now we are back directly on our Cloud Shell. So let's see, we've also completed this task. Let's see if we've completed this task. So task complete. And the last task is to connect to the MySQL database from a virtual machine. So let's see if we can connect to this MySQL database that we created. And look at all the information I specified there. I'm also going to show you that this is actually a database that I connected into. So let's see if we can connect to our Cloud Shell instance from a virtual machine. So the first thing we want to do is we'll create a virtual machine because we don't have one yet. So I'll spin up a virtual machine here. Yeah, so you can see these are the details of our virtual machine. This is the internal IP, this is the external IP. And if you also want to see the virtual machine that we get created, you can just come here from Compute Engine virtual machines. Then you see all these informations that are here that are showing on our virtual machine. So this is it, test client. You can see the internal IP, the same thing as what is here, and the external IP, the same thing as what is here. So cool. The next thing we want to do is we want to connect the information on our virtual machine to our Cloud SQL service. So to do that, we'd go and add a connection to this particular virtual machine from our Cloud SQL instance that we created then. So what I need to do here is to copy the external IP address, which is this. So when I copy the external IP address, then I go back to my Cloud SQL virtual machine. I go back to my Cloud SQL instance rather. So here I am. This is my SQL DB. Then just go to configurations. Yeah, edit configuration from here. So when I'm there, just go down and go to connection. From connection, I'll add the network, and I'm just going to add this external IP address, and I click on done. So after that, click on save to save it, and when it shows success here, then I can now go connect to it from my virtual machine. Yeah, so we are done. So to connect into our virtual machine instance, we can use two ways. You can run this command on your Cloud Shell, and it's going to take you to the virtual machine SSH session, or you can just SSH normally. So the normal way we SSH without using this is just to go to the Compute Engine, then from our virtual machine. So here's the virtual machine we're interested in. Then we can now SSH into it here. So you can just do SSH, and it's going to SSH. We're going to open an SSH in browser here, and it's also going to transfer the necessary keys. So anyone you want to do, you can just do this, or just do it the way I did this. So here I am from here, and let me just show you for you to see that it's the same thing from our Cloud Shell. So I can run this code one more time to just show you that it's the same thing. Then I click on yes. I did not use a passphrase, so just enter. And now you can see my test client, just the same thing I had from here. The same thing here is also the same thing that is here. So I can use any one I want to use, but let me just use this. So the next thing I want to do is run all this command, the sudo apt-get update and the sudo apt-get install the MySQL client software on my virtual machine. So it's going to run this, it's getting installed, and it will also do the necessary updates. So after that, so install the MySQL clients. Yeah, so we are done with the necessary installation. The next thing we want to do is we want to log onto our database server. So the database server we created the other time, let's access it. So from here, copy this here and change this public IP address to the public IP address of the database that you created. So you can get it in two ways. I already copied my own to the browser. If you are following from here, you'd see it here. But just for those who did not copy, to get that, just go back to your database. So the same value here is also the same thing we have here. You can see 158, and you can see it is 158. So you can just copy it back from here. Well, I have this, so let's copy. So here I'm going to replace this with this. Then I have used an environmental variable for my password when I was giving the user root access. So click on enter. So my password is that, enter, and now I am in my SQL database. So just to be double sure that this is not a new MySQL database and this is actually the one we were using before, so let's show the databases that are here. And you can see we have the engineer cozy, the information schema, the MySQL performance schema, and sys. To also be double sure one more time, let's enter into the engineer cozy database. So with the use engineer cozy, make sure you're typing the correct thing. I omitted the whole here. And now I am in my engineer cozy database on MySQL. So let's see what's there by doing select star. You know, we added one record to it. Let's see if we can see those records. So let's start, and the name of the table we used there was pets. And you can see here we are. So this is the same database that we had then. We only just connected to it through this version. And if you are using the Cloud console also, you can also connect to it from here. So it's just the same thing we did here that you would also do in this place, and yeah, fine. So to exit my Cloud shell or to exit my virtual machine, this is the exit command, and now I am back. I have left my MySQL database and I'm now in my virtual machine just normally. And from here, if you're also using the Cloud shell, to just leave this and go back to your Cloud shell instance. So leave the SSH of the virtual machine and just go back to your Cloud shell, just the same one. So now I'm also back on my Cloud shell page. So I think that's probably all. So let's see if we've completed this. Yeah, we are done. And that's the end of our lab. So congratulations for following me to this stage, and you all have used Cloud SQL to create a database that is managed by Google, and you created both Postgres SQL and MySQL database, and you connected to those databases using the Google Cloud CLI and from a virtual machine also. So this is quite fundamental, but take a look at it, go over the lab one more time, and make sure you are very familiar with your commands. And like you can see, I was making some little mistake due to my spelling error, so make sure you're using the correct spelling, make sure you're typing them as appropriate. And also, this lab is just a test, and that is why I could show you all my password here. But when you're creating your own database, make sure that you're keeping your password as safe as possible, and only people who have access should have access. So Google Cloud enable you or help you secure your database by default in the case that if someone is not launched into your project or to your GCP account, you shouldn't be able to connect to your database by default. But in case you need to bring in someone, you can use the CIDR to add or allow a third-party client to have access to your database. But just within your organization also, you want to make sure that you're keeping your database as secure as possible and not just everyone having access to it. So thanks very much for staying to the end of this lab. If you enjoyed this lab, make sure you smash the like button, comment your thoughts in the comment section, and share with your loved ones. Bye for now. See you in the next lab.